The word Kizashi means an omen or something great is coming. For once, the marketing wasn't lying. The Kizashi was easily the best sedan Suzuki has ever sold in the US. Refined, comfortable, well-equipped, and surprisingly fun to drive. It was supposed to show Americans that Suzuki could compete with Honda, Toyota, and Nissan in the mid-size sedan wars. But the reality, nobody noticed. Sales barely cracked 7,000 in its best year. For comparison, Honda sold over 350,000 Accords that same year. Furthermore, the US dealer network completely collapsed. Suzuki packed up and left the car business here in 2012. The Kizashi's most famous legacy ended up being a recall involving actual spiders crawling into the fuel system. So in this week's episode, I'm going to go over Suzuki's final flagship sedan that was a lot more advanced than any of us remember. To understand how weird the Kizashi was, you have to look at what Suzuki was selling here in the decade before. Their lineup was a grab bag of rebadges and budget compacts. Forenza and Reno, Daewoo products with Suzuki badges, sold cheap and super unmemorable unless you happen to own one. The Verona was another Daewoo positioned as a midsize but a little bland and tried marketing above the Camry and Accord. However, they had a transverse 2.5 inline-six in a Suzuki. The Aria was a quirky little hatchback and sedan combo. Never really caught on. They were supposed to be a Corolla killer, but it's a Suzuki, and I'm not hating them. It's hard to explain, more on that later. The SX4, this was one of their best sellers, a compact hatch with available all-wheel drive that earned a cult following. The Grand Vitara, a small SUV with genuine off-road ability but overshadowed by CR-V and RAV4. Again, not a bad car, just Toyota and Honda were easier choices for consumers. That being said though, if you are in the market for a capable off-roader, these are a great option. They're so much cheaper than a 4Runner or Xterra. Lastly is the Equator, just a rebadged Nissan Frontier that almost nobody knew even existed. So you get the point, right? Suzuki's US identity was mainly affordable rebadges. Then in 2009, out of just completely nowhere, they rolled out a completely in-house designed midsize sedan. Suzuki hyped it as their first real premium sedan, aiming squarely at Camry, Accord, Altima, and maybe even BMW 3 Series or Audi A4 buyers. Alright, that last comparison was wishful thinking, but it showed Suzuki's ambition. The Kizashi was the best tuned sedan Suzuki ever made. Steering was crisp, body control tight, and the suspension struck a rare balance between sporty and comfortable. Reviewers even said the steering was as good as a Mazda 3, high praise considering Suzuki's last sedans were forgettable Daewoo clones. Suzuki also shocked people with the interior. Soft touch materials, a clean dash layout, supported front buckets, and just enough arch and detail to feel upscale. The cabin stayed quiet at highway speeds, measuring about 69 decibels at 70 miles per hour, quieter than some luxury cars. The only knock? The rear seat was tight, closer to compact than midsize. That foreshadowed the Kizashi's biggest problem. It was stuck between size classes. Under the hood, every Kizashi had the same engine. A 2.4-liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder with 185 horsepower with the manual or 180 horsepower with the CVT and 170 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 in around 7.5 seconds. Quarter mile around 16.2 seconds at 88 miles per hour. EPA, 20 miles per gallon city and 20 miles per gallon highway, which not really that good for a 4-cylinder. The manual 6-speed was front-wheel drive only and felt vague over time, especially engaging reverse. The CVT was smoother than average but dulled acceleration. And the dream combo of manual and all-wheel drive never existed. If you wanted all-wheel drive, you were stuck with the CVT. Suzuki leaned on its motorcycle and SUV heritage to sell the I all-wheel drive system. Unlike Suzuki's old part-time 4x4 setups, I all-wheel drive was electronically controlled that let drivers select two-wheel drive for efficiency, auto for smart on-demand traction, and lock for full-time grip. It did add weight and a CVT requirement, but the idea of an all-wheel drive midsize sedan under $30,000 was appealing. Unfortunately, Subaru's legacy owned that niche with a much stronger brand recognition. It's really cool that these had all-wheel drive and it was a decent system, but I think most of us would take a Subaru instead. By 2013, Suzuki's US lineup looked like this. The SX4 sedan was around $16,000 to $19,000. The SX4 crossover all-wheel drive was around $17,000 to $20,000. The Grand Vitara was around $20,000 to $26,000, and the Kizashi was $20,000 to $29,000. The top trim was the SLS all-wheel drive, and it cost $29,000 back in 2013. That translates to over $40,000 in today's money, which is a little crazy to think about. Spending $40,000 on a Suzuki does not seem super appetizing. In 2010 to 2013, the midsize segment was brutal. Of course, you have the Accord and the Camry, bigger cabins, V6 options, and unbeatable resale. The Nissan Altima, sporty image with a 3.5 V6 available. The Hyundai Sonata and Kia Optima, fresh design, turbocharged engines, hybrid options. Subaru Legacy, all-wheel drive credibility with loyal buyers. And of course the Passat and Jetta, turbo 4s and German flavor. Kizashi's problem, no V6, no turbo, no hybrid, just one naturally aspirated 4. The chassis was ready for more, but Suzuki never gave it the power. At 183 inches long and 106-inch wheelbase, the Kizashi was bigger than a Civic or Jetta, but smaller than a Camry or Accord. It was like this big compact or a small midsize, depending on who you asked. For shoppers, that meant awkward comparisons. Buy a bigger Camry for the same money, or a smaller Civic/Corolla with better MPGs. So let's say somebody liked the Kizashi. Suzuki's US presence probably scared them off. Dealer count shrank to about 260 nationwide. For comparison, Toyota had over 900. And the brand reputation just wasn't premium. People trusted Suzuki for motorcycles and maybe a small SUV or a cheap economy car, not a $20,000 sports sedan. 2010 was the Kizashi's debut. They only sold around 6,100 units. 2011 was the peak of sales. It was less than 7,000. 2012 was around 5,600, and 2013 was just 1,600. Those numbers, well, they're basically like rounding errors compared to a Camry or Accord. Here's the thing though, even after Suzuki quit selling cars, Kizashi owners kept getting recall notices. The most infamous came in 2014. It was called the Spider Recall. Spiders attracted to gasoline vapors would crawl into the evaporated emissions vent hose, weave webs, block airflow, create negative pressure, and crack the fuel tank. Having a cracked fuel tank, that could cause leaks and fires. The fix was a filtered vent line and in some cases, a whole new tank. Kizashi owners were told to visit authorized service providers because Suzuki had already shut down. Just imagine buying a car from a company that doesn't exist anymore, then getting a recall later about spiders living in your gas tank. On top of the spider recall, there were a few more. From 2018 to 2019, airbag occupant sensors misread adults as children. This is due to the leather seats shrinking in the heat. In 2018, the CVT control module failed, causing reduced acceleration. Who would have thought? And in 2014, the shift interlock issue let the car move out of park without pressing the brake. Looking back though, the Kizashi was Suzuki's best car at the worst possible time. It had a genuinely good chassis and steering, a comfortable premium feeling interior, strong feature content at a fair price, all-wheel drive availability in a segment that rarely offered it. But it also had only one engine, which was underpowered for the competition, no clear size or market identity, a shrinking dealer network, and a brand image too weak to support a premium sedan. Today, the Kizashi is a forgotten gem. If you find one, you'll get a refined, comfortable sedan that feels like more than the badge suggests. And you'll own one of the only cars in history remembered for being taken down by spiders. In my opinion, it's a decent looking car. I think the last time I saw one was maybe 3-4 years ago. It's been a minute since I've seen one of these on the roads. Let me know in the comments what you think of these. If you've owned one, please let us know how it was. Was it reliable? Did you have the spider issue? Or was it a great car at the wrong time? As always, thank you guys for making it to this point of the video. I'm finally dabbing into the foreign markets, so hopefully you all enjoy it. Anyway, with that said, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will try and see you all next week.